Hey everybody, thanks for joining. My name is Ian Alexander, Chief Operating Officer at Syncro and one of the co-founders here, and I am here with Nate. Thank you for joining, Nate.
Hello.
And Nate is the owner of Astoria, formerly Datacom Technologies, an MSP based in Cleveland, Ohio. Um, Nate started off as a one-person break-fix shop in 2015, and today now runs a six-person MSP, and they serve the medical and manufacturing industries. We're going to interview Nate, ask him all kinds of questions about his journey and how he grew, any challenges he had, things like that. Hopefully, we can all learn from that. Nate, thank you so much for joining.
Well, thanks for having me here, Ian. It's always a pleasure to see you and talk to you. You guys at Syncro have definitely been a part of that journey. So, I'm always glad to spend some time with you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, maybe if we could just start, you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and how you got into all of this?
Yeah, I had a great idea about a decade ago about transitioning my boss's break fix shop to a subscription based model because I really liked how people were getting recurring monthly income. And I was a lot worse at research than I am now at that point. And so I came up with the idea, but I didn't come up with say, hey, there's all these companies doing this already because there were a decade ago, and he hated it. Um, so I quit and I went into the sales industry for about 5 years. And all the while, I'm cooking up this idea. And I said, I'm going to get back into it. I know break fix. So I'm going to start repairing people's computers and their phones. All the while, I'm wanting to do this subscription based model. And I'm starting to learn at this point that MSP is a really big deal. So I'm starting to put my packages together and things like that. And I jumped into repairing computers really full time at the end of 2015, about 6 years ago. I had done it on the side the whole time, but I was doing door to door sales for a completely different industry, but an industry that was basically had an MSP model. So all the while, I'm like, wow, this is really neat. I love the business side of this as much as I like the technical side of it too. And so that brought me up to where we started 6 years ago. And so now we've grown into the MSP that you just discussed there, where we're a six-member team and just having a lot of fun here in the Cleveland region.
Awesome. Yeah, so it sounds like you were kind of just getting into the industry, started out as break fix and transitioned to MSP. Can you talk a little bit more about the transition period there and what that was like?
Yeah, I think it took me really till about early 2017, which was close to about the launch of Syncro, I think, until I really figured it out. And I really tripped around in it. I didn't have any like mentors or really anybody really giving me a lot of information about it. And I think really at that point, I had a hard time even finding a good community to work with. I had one vendor that was really helpful on the break fix side, and they had this integration with Repair Shopper. And I was like, well, invoicing was horrible for me at that point. I'm trying to do it I had Excel sheets, I had QuickBooks. I was spending a lot of time just trying to figure this all out and scale this. And I think a lot of small business owners run into this. So I looked at Repair Shopper, I ran the demo, and I'm like, well, this is cool. And I think I can afford it. Keyword, I think I can afford it. So I thought, well, I'll try it out and see how it goes. And I just loved it. And it really revolutionized my break fix business, to the point where I was like, this would be great to have some better automation built into it. And I started seeing some of the information coming out about Syncro. And I had looked at some of the big boys out there, and I was like, I definitely can't afford those right now as a startup. And so it was an easy transition to jump into Syncro, especially with your guys did at that point helped us with the transition of being able to pull all of my clients from Repair Shopper into Syncro and keep a lot of those old records for me as well. So that transition was really important for Syncro, but it was really a transition in my mindset of getting my clients to say, oh, I think this is a better idea to have a recurring service as opposed to, I'll just fix your computer when it's broken type of thing. And so we started in the residential space. It was a little bit easier for me to get myself in trouble, and I priced myself way too cheap. And so I was able to figure that out before I took on too many businesses. I only had like 2 or 3 businesses before I was like, oh no, I'm not making enough. I'm not making the right amount of money here. I'm losing money on these packages, and was able to transition before I got myself into too much trouble on that. And so kind of helped us lead that transition side, but getting myself just explaining to the clients up front, we're MSP and that's what we do. And this is way better for you. This is way better technology. And then just proving it to myself. So I really had to start with selling it to Nate that, oh my gosh, this is scary going and trying to sell this when why can't you just fix the computer for $100 and walk away? And this is so much better for them to have a partner along the side. So it was really a mental transition for me to get myself out of the break fix. Even though I loved the idea, it was still hard to make that jump in my mind.
That totally makes sense. One of the things you mentioned earlier was that you had done sales. So,
Mhm.
I know a lot of MSPs start off as the technical person,
Right.
right?
Right.
You had sales experience. What do you think that did for you in your
Uh,
business?
yeah, it definitely made me braver to try things I want to try. I speak with other MSPs, smaller and larger than me all the time, and I would say the ones who don't have a lot of sales experience, I feel very bad for them because you can't build an MSP today without sales. I just don't think it's possible to scale very fast. That being said, you need a lot of technical know-how to be an MSP. So I'm fortunate in a position now. I did have some technical background, but it kept me away from some of the higher end enterprise work initially. But there's some grace in that as well because I wasn't ready for the pricing on some of that as well. But now I'm in a better position now where we really are bringing on those enterprise technicians who can I can really support and sell their skill set. But yeah, when I got into sales, I was literally driving down the street, walking into people's businesses, trying to sell them something. That was really, really scary. That's not the MSP sales world. But locally, what that did for me was build a huge network of contacts that I was able to go back to and say, "Thanks, old boss." But now I have a bunch of people I know in my region. I mean, I'm telling you, 60 miles in every direction. I've got contacts of people, and just been able to really build on that even to a national level.
Got it. So it sounds like networking was really helpful for
Oh
you
yeah,
in the
absolutely.
sales and marketing um, journey. Are there other like tactics or strategies that have worked really well for you?
I would say, we've invested a lot of time and energy into the social media. We and just kind of building off of that network. So I have a good network. People have gone and like our page, connect with me on LinkedIn, those channels, and then just really capitalizing on that of creating engaging content through that. The using email marketing, things that really help add value to our brand have really been the 2 main ways that we have really grown our business. And you can grow your business in 2 ways. You can acquire new clients or you can sell more to your current clients. So it's just sitting down and having a conversation with those current clients. What projects are you working on? And how can we help you with what we have? And maybe they didn't know that we can help them with some of this information and really help them better their business through the relationship we already have with them.
So you're doing like quarterly business reviews with your clients, or like how do you structure that feedback from them?
Yeah, so we'll do a quarterly if we can. At a minimum, it's going to be an annual review with them. I'm speaking with our clients at least quarterly about different projects they have coming up, using even the automation. So it can be, we know that this hardware is getting old and we need to replace it. And this is a part of the conversation. This is what we talked about last quarter. So using those conversations gives us the opportunity to sit down and say, these are the things that are upcoming and we need to, get a plan together for a budget. And then talking about that up front, saying, hey, we're not going to be able to fix everything day one. It's going to be a journey together. So let's walk together and get a plan together so that you're not having to shell out everything all at once. And a lot of small businesses, they aren't prepared to spend the capital all at once. They want to know that the guy in front of them gets it and is going to help them get to the end, whether that's this year or the next 5 years.
Got it. That makes sense. And so it sounds like you're in some of these quarterly business reviews or annual business reviews.
Mhm.
I imagine your team also contributes. How have you been able to like train your team to recognize opportunities that might pop up? Like, hey, looks like all their computers are really old, or something like that. Like, is there some amount of like training or culture that you've been able to instill in the team to make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just having a sales environment we have now, so everybody has a sales goal of some type. The technicians have how many hours you need to sell this month to get your bonus. It's not really high, but it's to say, just as simple as saying to the client, "Hey, I have fixed the issue with your computer today. Is there anything else you need?" "Oh yeah, well, it wasn't printing, and Jane's computer over there was giving me issues." And now they've just set themselves up for maybe 2 more hours of on-site service that goes to their bonus for them as well. Or stating, "I noticed your computer's running really slow today. I have solid state drives with me. This doesn't have a solid state drive in it. I can image that and get that done." That incorporates to another service hour and a piece of hardware sold for them. And so just putting that into that, recognizing those opportunities really made that a part of the environment. Or just saying, coming back and explaining to me, "I saw these things going on, and this is what I think we need to do." And we put that plan together and go in and present that to the client.
Nice. It's amazing what incentives can do. It's cool that you've done that for the whole team.
Yeah.
Are there other aspects of your culture that you've tried to foster?
I'd definitely say everybody's a learner here. About 2 years ago, I hired a social media manager who had no social media management experience. But I said, what she brought to the table was organization. So I definitely could organize it if I had the time capacity to get it done. But for the time that I needed somebody that could come in, write me a manual of how we're going to do the job and actually push everything out. So I would say, "Well, this is how we're going to structure it. Now I need you to learn how to put this all together in a manual and how you're going to put these graphics together." I mean, all of that takes a lot of time and effort to put together. And so that's one really big success story in there of hiring somebody who had no experience. I think a lot of small business owners think, let's hire somebody in high school. And not talking against anybody who is maybe there's some really good high schoolers out there that can do your social media. But I hired somebody who had the work ethic and a lot of work experience to do this for me, that was willing to learn the graphic side of it. And I feel that's more valuable to hire people who are willing to be learners and to continually advance themselves. So everybody here right now at Astoria is in some way in some type of ongoing training for themselves. Somebody's working on, getting a Network Plus, and I'm working on Microsoft sales training right now, and another person's learning on how to, maybe edit high quality videos and doing a course. We're all learning something currently, and that's a big part of our culture.
Nice. So it sounds like part of your like hiring criteria is people who like to learn. What
Yeah.
other things do you look for when you're hiring a new tech or a new employee?
So I like the Myers Briggs personality tests. I haven't anybody turn me down. I say, "Hey, can you take this personality test? We're going to hire you." I really want to know where they're at, but I'm really looking for somebody who has empathy, because I want somebody who cares about the customer. Because really, at the end of the day, our customers, they aren't as concerned about the fact that we know technical. They are concerned about it, but they want to know that somebody actually cares about them and their problem. Because there are a lot of times where there's something wrong that I really have no control over. I'm providing them excellent service, I'm providing them excellent hardware. All of the stuff is right. And they're mad at their ISP. They're mad at some vendor I have no control over. And all they want me to do is sit there and listen to them today. And So I need my employees to have empathy for our clients and say, I actually care about you and want that. And if we can't care about our clients, then it might not be the best business for you. And with an MSP, unless you're a larger MSP, all of your employees are going to be customer facing. There's nobody going to be able to sit in a back office in a smaller MSP.
Yeah, I remember when I was working at an MSP, we had somebody come in and their PhD thesis was on their hard drive, and it had hardware damage. So
Oh,
we didn't do hardware recovery. We would send that off to like Drive Savers in San Jose or whatever. And I remember how scared they were, and it was like,
right,
I can't really do anything about this because we don't do this kind of data recovery. But we had to, be empathetic to your point,
right,
and say, hey, I think this is the best option for you. You can send it here. This is how much it's going to cost. Here's what the time frame is. And we weren't making any money on that. It was just a
right.
referral. But yeah, that kind of people rely on you for their livelihoods a lot of the time, or things are very stressful. So
Yeah, and you find
yeah,
from with that, you find the opportunity of, I have a story of where a company just they were storing their QuickBooks file in their recycle bin. Don't ask me why. And of course, it got emptied at some point, and um, we were not able to recover it. It was gone till they figured it out when they called us, and I was like, man, we have backups so it doesn't happen again. I'm really sorry this happened. I tried to work, whatever we could do, but I'm really sorry this happened. And so they have that backup bill gets paid the day we send the invoice every year. Like, so I know that they value that service very much.
yeah, and connecting the dots, I bet hiring people who are empathetic
Hmm.
also leads to them understanding what pain points might be, which might lead to them being able to sell more hours or services.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything that you wish you'd done differently or better, if you knew what you know now when you started?
Well, I wish when I started, I wouldn't have had as much fear going into this. It's a scary thing to start your own business. You're, signing up with vendors that, I remember I think about Syncro when I originally signed up for it, and it's a very affordable service saying, can I really afford whatever it was at the time? I don't, somewhere around $100 a month, Um, that was huge for me to consider that. I was scared to death, and that held me back from buying certain things or trying certain things because of that fear. I would have started the MSP day one because uh, now I have to still, from time to time, I'll have that awkward conversation of, yeah, we really don't fix computers like that. You really need to do, this or the other thing. And then unfortunately, I have a soft spot when that old lady's standing in my office and she needs her grandkids' pictures back. And I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do. But that's about taking care of the community as well. But I wish I would have just day one launched that MSP plan and just ran with it and done some more research. I would have done more research and I would have gotten a mentor as well.
Got it. Yeah, we have a question from the audience here that kind of relates to that. So coming back to the selling aspect, are there any resources that you would recommend for people who want to learn more about selling, um, that you've encountered in the past?
There's a lot of local resources. Like there's the Sandler group. I'm not sure. I believe they're national. I've done a little bit of their training. I would recommend a couple of books for that as well. Um, just because there's just there's so many different ways to sell out there, and I would really probably recommend somebody who really doesn't have a lot of sales experience to connect with another salesperson. Some of my like my partners, like my voice over IP partner, their sales and marketing director, we've become friends, and he's been really helpful to me in just understanding sales, things beyond what I already knew. I would shy away from buying programs though. There's a lot of things out there that sell you from things. Just they're good salespeople, and it really doesn't tell you anything more. Just from the experience of getting out there and doing it every single day is really where you're going to learn it. And maybe just going on some sales calls with another MSP. Maybe if another MSP will let you do that with them. I've been able to do that with a couple of other MSPs and see how they sell, and they see how I sell, and we can really grow off of that. Or maybe team up with a copier rep, team up with a voice over IT rep. Go see how they're selling. You're only going to make each other better through that. And just maybe consume some more books on sales would be my suggestion on that.
Are there, there's a couple books I can think of. Are there any in particular that stand out to you?
I really like They Ask You Answer. It's here on my bookshelf. That one's a really good book. And I think Who Not How was another really popular one recently. And that Who Not How is probably my favorite. That was actually from one of my partners, and that was about leveraging your network to sell for you, basically. So you might not be the world's best salesperson, but go make some friends with some salespeople. I have people who sell me because they're referring me stuff, but they've already sold it before I got there. So some of the major ISPs have reps on the ground. Make friends with those guys and buy them gift cards when they get you a client, something like that. They love that. Or some of them are 1099 already with the corporation. So give them, send them some cash, take care of them. They'll sell the product for you. Partner with low voltage guys, partner with copier companies, partner with voice over IP companies, partner with people that I have people who refer me business that aren't even in any way associated in the industry. Attorneys, accountants, those types of people can really sell for you, so that you don't have to really show up and do a big pitch. You can just show up and say, Jim over here said that you need my services. This is what I'm here to do. And they're already signing for you before you're done.
Totally. Yeah. Those are great recommendations. A couple that come to mind for me that are like a little like basics essentially are the Little Red Book of Selling. And then there's another one, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's
Right.
it's like really old classic.
Right.
But I think that's a good just mindfulness about how to communicate with people.
Right.
Let's see here. I'm curious. So you've gone from 1 to 5. What were some of the challenges at different points for you in growing the team?
I think finding people who I've had very loyal people here that were not really capable of the position I really wanted them to grow into. I really wanted them to. I was really rooting for them, and they were good for the time being that they were here. And I feel bad even saying that, because I don't think badly of anybody who's ever worked for me. We've had some people come and go here. We've had our challenges, and they were important for the time they were here. But some people outgrow their positions, or the company outgrows them to some point. And I think that's been the biggest challenge of going and say, you really don't fit here anymore, and I want to help you transition to the next place. And that's been really probably the hardest part about those growing pains, is the people. And I know that'll happen again in the future, and I really hate those conversations.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you had to change a lot of processes as you've gone?
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of the processes of how we really implement everything we do is completely different from day one. And it's really come down from me communicating, because you remember I started in my basement as a one-man show, so my process was whatever Nate came up with that day. And now to clone myself and to say, okay, when you do this, I need you to do XYZ and write that down. And then it's not getting done. And then I'm like, okay, so why isn't it getting done? And trying to figure out where that's breaking down, and just to continue to refine that and refine that and refine that constantly is the biggest challenge, I think, in just getting the process down.
Sounds like you're trying to standardize a lot of processes through documentation and iterating on that.
Correct. Yeah, I really believe that if it's not written down, then it's probably not true. So if I haven't written it down, then the employees really can do anything they want because it's not real yet. So once it's written down, then I have more of an accountability for them to go back and say, well, no, this is how it's written. Let's do it this way. But I invite a lot of feedback. Hey, if you think there's a better way of doing it, let's try it and let's do it. I don't have any issues with trying new things. So I love feedback because I definitely don't have all the answers and stuff. I this is just as good as anybody else. Some days I say I'm just surviving. I'm doing the best I can. If you have a better idea, let's talk about it, implement it, and try it and stuff. I bring a lot of more experience than some members of the team, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that I have the right answer.
Yeah, that's great. It's a very humble attitude. How do you think you've grown as the business has grown personally?
I think I am a lot less reactive than I ever was. I would be. I love adventure, and so every day is kind of an adventure with me. So I love to travel. So it's always like not where are we not where are we going, but when are we going type of thing. And I would be the first person. Oh, I've got this great idea, and I did it, and I ran out, and I did it the next day, and then usually it would fail. Now I'm working on things that I'm going to implement at Astoria at the end of first quarter, and I know what I'm going to do at the end of second quarter. And so I'm planning 12, 24 months out at this point of things that I want to do. And it's really amazing when I take the time and I can tweak it along the way. Say, well, this wasn't working. I can fix this, rather than just having this scattered mess of things around there and I've forgotten half of it along the way. I think that's really helped me grow to be a proactive person and just being a better communicator, I would say as well. Just really taking the time to think through what I want to do and being a better communicator of what I want, actually able to deliver that as well.
Yeah, it's amazing what can happen when you sit down and have the time to think high level and strategically. Um, but in order to do that, you often need other people to like pick stuff up, right? Because the context switching is really hard. So, is there anything you've done with your team to like have them grow into stuff that then enables you to think at that level?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say in the technical area, um, that's probably been my biggest challenge of trying to help one of our team members really grow into the idea of, as the company grows, I want you to run this department. And trying to select that person was really challenging. And my early hires have been really hard because I know that they're going to be those team leaders. And we have to have a really good relationship. And it's hard, and it's stressful. And say, I know how to manage people, but I haven't really been in a position where I've managed managers. And what does a manager need? And learning and growing with that person and having that communication up front and saying, this is my vision for you. Now, how do I make it your vision for yourself? Is and once they start catching on to that, that has been really freeing. So I can go and focus on the things. I'm really good at sales and marketing for this company, and so that's my focus. That's what Nate does, but the majority of his time is sales and marketing, and I have a technical team that handles those things for me on the day to day.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a book I really love about this called Multipliers, and it sounds like you're doing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, good book.
Yeah, cool. I want to transition just to something like kind of different, but how has the pandemic affected you? Have you been, what did you have to do to remain resilient there?
The pandemic was extremely difficult, I think, mentally for myself on a personal level. I thought the business might be done, just the way things were going. I think we might have all gone through that on some level of how am I going to get things paid and are people going to pay? We lost a couple of clients during that time, but I will say um, we took on some projects. Some clients did very very well, and all of a sudden they're buying like tons of things, and I'm trying to stay organized, and that really helped me refine my process. Um, but mentally, at the beginning of the pandemic, I wouldn't say I was as healthy as I am now. Prior to the pandemic, I had started getting some counseling just for some issues I had. And all during that time, I was just working through that process and working through that again just to make myself a healthier person. And I've really found, I think, from the pandemic, my business hasn't grown 2000%. I have not don't have one of those stories, but I have found that really MSP can be the mental health for my clients. So you know what? Unload this piece from you. I have it figured out. Here's how you find your sanity for you. And so that's one piece that we've been bringing to the table for them and saying, I know what it's like to feel like you're losing your mind and have that anxiety and depression and those types of things, and connect with them on that a lot of business owners have. And then say, I want to take a piece of that stress away from you because I have a process that I'm really good at, and I can take a lot of the stress away from you because I've removed the stress from me by building a team and a process around me as well. So I think I got lost in the question a little bit in there.
Oh,
I think
that's
there's another
perfect.
aspect to the question, maybe.
Yeah, well, giving peace of mind to customers is huge.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what MSPs are selling. So,
Yeah.
um, I guess on the same note, we got a question from the audience here. Um, on the kind of like managing people and letting go of things so that you can focus on the little more strategic layer.
Yeah.
What part of the business has been the hardest for you to let go and let other people take over?
I think the technical was definitely the hardest. I always have known that I am not I will never really call myself a technical engineer by any means. A lot of people throw that on their title or something. I don't believe I'm the best technical person. And that was the hardest thing to let go because that's where we can mess things up. And so I'm very, very detailed focused. So I'll read the book 50 times to make sure that we did it right. And just being able to let that go and say, you know what, if they mess up, it's going to be okay and they're going to fix it. And having to let go of that technical piece because I had that technical background of me, and I want it to be right and I want it to be exact. And because that's really where we live and die. But I'm starting to realize that customers, they do forgive, and they do know that we're not going to be perfect every single time, and they're really more about the relationship that we have with them. And we can fix it and those types of things, and it's made me focus on being able to implement better hardware and better processes and better automation. We can catch the mistakes a lot faster than the client can notice the mistakes too, which has been really helpful to us as well, because we're going to make mistakes. They just want it fixed. They just want their stuff to work.
Yeah, people talk a lot about cultures and it being okay to make mistakes, and the more important thing being that you're continuously improving. How have you been able to empower your team to be able to make mistakes, but also continuously improve and not make the same mistakes over and over?
Right. So we'll say something doesn't go well on a particular project or a particular day. Let's sit down. Let's talk through that and figure out why didn't it work. And then I like to buy a lot of stuff to test with. So we're going to implement a new product. Let's buy that piece of hardware, that piece of software. Let's play with it, break it, do it again. Let's figure it out before we implement it. So typically we'll have a couple of extra whatever software hardware around that we've already played with. I think another really important aspect of that is helping mitigate some of those mistakes. Is what we sell is what we use internally. So if I'm selling you a specific firewall, it's one that we use internally. If I'm selling you a piece of software, it's one that we use internally. So our people already know how to work with it because they're seeing it every single day. It's not like something brand new they've walked into, never ever seen before, some new portal, some new something like that. So that's helped me mitigate a lot of the mistakes in that level too.
Awesome. Last question we got here from the audience, and if anyone wants to submit any new questions, go ahead. I think this is going back to the question about hiring, but do you look for any education minimums, certifications, that kind of stuff? How much of that do you take into account when you're looking at resumes?
I really like to see a high school diploma is probably my like minimum. I'd like to see them finish that. I don't think, at least in our market, there's no college that really prepares for the MSP world. There's a lot of life experience. I want somebody who has come in and they say, "Hey, been building computers since I was 5 years old or something," or I'm really interested in this, and I want to give them a chance to prove themselves. And so I'll run them through it. Like, here, show me a couple of things. Do you know how to use a computer? Like, everybody knows how to use a computer, but show me some of the advanced ways that you can use a computer. Show me that you have an interest in that. So I'm not really interested in college. I'm not exactly interested in certifications. They definitely help on the certification side. I think there's some good ones out there. But I more at this level right now looking for clean, a little bit cleaner slates and saying, let's figure out what certification is best for you and go ahead and chase after it in that regard, rather than saying I have to have this, that, or the other thing. Because I think we're missing out on a lot of good people by weeding them out based upon certifications or degrees or things like that that really haven't prepared them for the job they're doing anyways.
That makes sense. Is there any other advice you would give to people that I haven't asked you about?
I would just say don't be afraid to keep trying and keep living the adventure. There's been several times where I'm like, I think this is done. I think it's over. And then I actually step back and look and say, well, I'm only looking at one negative situation. Look at all these really, really positive things that are happening in my business, in my life. And I just would say, just don't stop trying ever, even to the point of nothing's really a failure. You know, Syncro represents a lot of smaller MSPs in the community, and we have families, we have just our small businesses we're trying to run here, and I think just continuing to live that adventure every day. There are a lot of big sharks out there that try to scare you away to get you out of the community, I think. And I think we can't be afraid to keep trying every single day, is probably my biggest piece of advice for that.
Awesome. Nate, thank you so much for taking the time. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed talking to you. I'm sure people will have listened to this and will listen to it in the future as
Yeah.
a recording, and really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I love the Syncro community. I always love engaging with the different groups online. If anybody has to follow up, I am very active on LinkedIn. So love chatting with different MSPs through those channels. So thanks so much for having me today, Ian.
Of course, happy to do it. Good to catch up, and
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.